Yes. Okay, perfect. Well, thanks for having me. And essentially, yes, I'm Brittany and I'm the founder of GATELESS. And essentially, GATELESS is a catalog database to essentially make catalog growth easier. So I'm a music publisher, and just as you all, are probably aware, can you guys see this next screen where it says disclaimer? Yes? Perfect. Okay. So just in terms of disclaimer, I'm not here to try to tear down anybody in this industry, in regards to current practices, but, Gateless was created as a way out and for creative to continue. So I figured we should start off with a quote that I found when, well, USC, they had a gender and inclusion in the recording studio report that they had a part of their yearly report. Well, no, their reports that they do for the music industry each year. And, irregardless of gender and race, I thought it was interesting that they assessed that across 900 popular songs from 2012 to 2020, that essentially the only thing that all the songwriters had in common was that they were only going to be on the Hot 100 at least once within the past, that 9 year span. Which, from a publisher standpoint, think about how market share works and being on the Hot 100. I'm sure those songwriters were offered a pub deal. Most likely they took it. And I always questioned, from data like this and, in-person data from being in the studio, just hearing word of mouth, whatever happened to all of this music. So with that being said, here's additional articles highlighting, other journalists who essentially, realized the decline and actually use, much of the data, from the various sources that were, a part of, the conference yesterday, how it paints a bigger picture as to where we are with pop music. And in terms of music publishing, so, I thought this was a unique article that was released in Billboard in 10/24/24. And essentially, they just highlighted that they believe that, the PROs highlighted that the decline, their biggest issue is the decline with radio and revenue from, TV, which essentially it's gone dead. Which, like I said, just in terms of, if we read articles from various companies or conglomerates, the articles can make it seem as though things are okay. But I'm sure, everybody talks about it, pop culture talks about it, there essentially needs to be the outlet. So with that being said, Gateless was created, as a result of the concerns that I've heard from multiple songwriters and artists, executives, and essentially, it's a portal for songwriters to house, the ideas that are essentially sitting on their hard drives that can be considered amongst other, artists or executives for opportunities, which the pandemic, if it's taught us anything, it's more so that creatives can create at home and essentially just in regards to, their immediate needs. I've realized it can't come from human middleman to essentially, make those special plays and, essentially connect those dots, which meeting, like I said, essentially being a music publisher and working with major music publishers, I've seen it from the standpoint of so many songwriters, they're essentially so talented. There could be thousands of songwriters signed to companies, but essentially there's nothing happening with their catalog. So with that being said, this is what the songwriter portal looks like. And then in terms of just even identifying, so I'll go ahead and replay this again. So they can go ahead and upload their music, they can figure out, if there's any co-writers, they can specialize the tagging process so it gets even additional exposure. But then also too, they can identify if there's been any samples and interpolations a part of it, which is pretty cool from an executive perspective because, I know there's younger A&Rs that may not catch samples. However, at least with this, this proper information can allow songwriters to, well, artists and executives to gauge, any production of interest properly without, that last hurdle of trying to get a clearance, a sample cleared. So with that being said, this is what the artist and A&R view looks like. So we're going to use Jackie at Island, for example. This is what her inbox will look like. And in terms of, the access of the inbox part is more so, the intercollaboration is there from an approach of, even when it comes to playlists, Jackie can create playlists for the artists that she works with. However, any playlists that have been shared with, the artists, she'll also have access to. But then also, any playlist that the artist creates on the platform, she'll also be in the where. Just so, we have these certain metrics in place just so everybody is working in unison and it's not counterintuitive as to, let's say if Jackie's sending ideas that, let's say artists on her roster have already considered. So moving forward, I'm like, I know I have limited time, but also too, if you guys want to see a further demo, please definitely hit me at the end of this. But just in regards to just the whole approach with shared playlists, just the process now of attempting to find new ideas is it could come through social media, it could come through the standpoint. However, with this, just from a standpoint of allowing songwriters to be able to continue to grow their relationships with artists, we have a more organized approach in which, in the event that there's already been files sent on behalf of the songwriter, well, from the songwriter to the artist, then those files will appear as updated. So let me just go ahead and rewind that back.
Yeah, and Brittany, we're at time, so if you just
right, that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, guys. I was going to say, I definitely try to condense this because it's more so 11-minute demo, but, we really have it in place to be a resource because a lot of people think the industry's dead and it's not dead. It's just more so the creative disconnect within publishing is what contributes to the bigger picture of essentially, if you question what happened to music or why, if they're, in terms of live music coming back, everybody not being able to go on tour as they expected. Or can you hear me?
Brittany, you're breaking up a little bit for me, but I'm going to go ahead and ask a question here that William in the audience had. If you can hear me, okay? Yeah?
Yes, sorry about that.
What use cases that you didn't expect Gateless has been used? Essentially, what are the use cases that Gateless has been used effectively for?
What use cases that you didn't? Well, essentially, I would say in terms of for Gateless, because I was kind of shocked that nobody thought of doing this earlier on, but then you kind of realize that a lot of people within the creative community essentially fear technology, but especially when it comes to this, you can't fear it. And especially when it comes to the publishing community, I've just seen it from so many different prerogatives of where everything is essentially getting stuck in the pipeline. And it's more so even with, the concept of Gateless, it's just been more so taking the experiences of, various people within publishing and music and essentially solving their problem. Because like I said, just realizing it's not going to come from middlemen, it's more so embracing technology. So.
Gotcha. Brittany, I think we're at time, but thank you so much for sharing Gateless with us and being part of the startup pitches today. So appreciate it. And congratulations on getting Gateless this far. It's exciting. So thanks for sharing.
Yes, thanks for having me, guys. And like I said, feel free to hit me. I'll be around. I'll be in the chat. So definitely feel free to reach out for a further demo. Okay?
Great. Thanks so much, Brittany.